Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, June 8th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. We begin with some breaking news. The Marines are confirming that an aircraft crashed during training in Imperial County. The Associated Press is reporting that it came from Camp Pendleton and belonged to the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing. The Osprey went down just before 12:30 this afternoon near the community of Glamis. Civilian and military emergency crews are responding, and at this time, no details have been released about the 5 Marines who were on board. Tonight, the votes are still being tallied, but we're getting a clearer picture of which candidates are headed for a November runoff. One of the most closely watched races, San Diego Sheriff. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer begins our election coverage.
Kelly Martinez topped a 7-candidate field in Tuesday's June primary election to secure a spot on the November runoff. Whoever wins then will succeed longtime Sheriff Bill Gore, who retired in February. Gore endorsed Martinez, so did County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher and San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria, among others.
I'm really encouraged that the voters have trusted me at this point with the votes and putting me forward through to the general. I think that the public and the voters really expect a sheriff who is transparent and accountable and focused on public safety, and I am that candidate.
John Hemmerling has a slight lead over Dave Myers for second place, which would earn him a spot in the runoff with Martinez. In an emailed statement, he told KPBS the outcome of the election was gratifying and said, "We need fresh, new leadership for a real change in how we safeguard our neighborhoods, run our jails, protect victims of crime, and keep the public informed. I look forward to the general election and the opportunity to engage Kelly Martinez in a serious and detailed debate about public safety in San Diego County." Hemmerling is endorsed by the state and county's Republican Party and by former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulkner, former City Attorney Jan Goldsmith, and retired San Diego Police Chief Shelley Zimmerman. He'd also been endorsed by the San Diego Union Tribune, but the paper withdrew that endorsement after learning Hemmerling had made comments that were viewed as anti-transgender. He retired from the city attorney's office right after that, but says that retirement had been long planned. The election comes as the Sheriff's Department battles with staffing issues and continued scrutiny over inmate deaths at its jail facilities. Martinez says she has the right background and knowledge to tackle those issues.
I am the most qualified candidate. I have the most experience in this job. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 37 years. I've worked at every rank, at every level. I've worked my way up to undersheriff, and as the undersheriff, I run the day-to-day operations of the department.
Assistant Sheriff Anthony Ray has served as the interim sheriff since March and will stay in that post until January, when a new sheriff will be sworn in. The San Diego Registrar of Voters will continue posting updates for all their races on their website over the coming days. Election results have to be certified on July 7th. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
David Alvarez is leading fellow Democrat Georgette Gomez in the special runoff race for a state assembly seat in the South Bay, but Alvarez is trailing by a small margin in the primary race for the same seat. Gomez and Alvarez are squaring off in a 2-for-1 election in the 80th district. The first is a runoff election to fill the term after the seat was vacated earlier this year by Lorena Gonzalez. Based on the early results, it appears he and Gomez will also face each other in the November general election. Governor Gavin Newsom will face a Republican state senator in the general election. Newsom dominated the race with more than 56% of the vote. Runner-up Brian Dahle got about 16%. Newsom is the favorite to win a second term just a year after surviving a recall election. Councilman John McCann and Amar Campa-Najjar appear to be the top 2 vote-getters in Chula Vista's mayoral primary. A November general election would pit the longtime councilman against the former congressional candidate. KPBS reporter Gustavo Solis has more on this race.
John McCann is the lone Republican in a 6-candidate primary race to be Chula Vista's next mayor. And even though the city is home to more Democrats than Republicans, McCann says that his comfortable lead in the primary shows that party preference is just not what voters care about in Chula Vista.
Potholes don't have a party affiliation, as well as I believe that people are tired of the hyper-partisanship, and they just want people to be at the city that will do their job.
McCann says that voters have responded well to his experience at City Hall, and that will be the difference in November. Amar Campanajjar begs to differ. The former candidate for San Diego's 50th congressional district says that voters are ready for new political leadership in the South Bay.
The voters said they want something new, fresh, different. They want new leadership. They're tired of the same recycled career politicians.
Currently, Campanajjar is nearly 10 points behind McCann in the primary, and just ahead of third-place finisher Jill Galvez. Top issues in the race include the city's multi-billion-dollar Bayfront development project, efforts to bring a four-year university to the South Bay, and managing projected budget deficits. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
3 incumbent San Diego City Council members are advancing to runoff elections, while 2 candidates will vie for the open District 6 race. In District 2, Jen Campbell will face Linda Lucas in November. Campbell survived a recall effort in 2021 led by those opposed to her push to regulate short-term rentals. In District 4, Monica Montgomery Stepp will run against Gloria Evangelista in the general election. In District 6, Kent Lee and Tommy Huff are advancing in their bids to replace termed-out Councilman Chris Cate. District 8, Councilwoman Vivian Moreno only had 1 challenger, Antonia Martinea, and both will advance. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher will face challenger Amy Reichert in November in his bid to maintain the District 4 seat. Fletcher serves as chairman of the Board of Supervisors and was endorsed by the governor, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria, and the County Democratic Party. Reichert is the co-founder of Reopen San Diego, an organization that rallied against vaccine and mask mandates. She was endorsed by the state and county Republican parties, as well as the mayors of El Cajon and Coronado. And you can find the latest election results for all the local and state races at kpbs.org. It's all right there on our homepage. Their words were intense, graphic, and heartbreaking. Survivors, doctors, and families from Buffalo and Uvalde faced Congress today, urging members to meet the moment and pass gun reforms now. Mike Valerio reports, and we want to warn you, some of the testimony is highly emotional and disturbing.
Somewhere out there, there's a mom listening to our testimony, thinking, I can't even imagine their pain, not knowing that our reality will one day be hers, unless we act now.
Kimberly and Felix Rubio lost their daughter Lexi in Uvalde, murdered only 15 days ago. 4th grader Mia Cerrillo survived the slaughter in her Robb Elementary classroom, playing dead by smearing blood on her body.
I thought he was going to come back to the room, so I grabbed the blood and put it all over me.
In the middle of this national horror, anguish on Capitol Hill as victims desperately pleaded with lawmakers to take action.
You are elected because you have been chosen and are trusted to protect us. But let me say to you here today, I do not feel protected.
Zanetta Everhart's son, Zaire, survived the Buffalo massacre. Everhart told members of the House her son will have shrapnel in his body for the rest of his life. A pediatrician who responded in Uvalde told Congress children's bodies were pulverized and decapitated by the bullets.
We are lying on the operating table, riddled with bullets like the children of Robb Elementary and so many other schools.
Miguel Cerrillo followed his daughter's video testimony, saying although she survived, she will never be the same.
She's not the same little girl that I used to play with, hang around with. She was daddy's little girl.
Mike Valerio, KPBS News.
A Supreme Court justice today was reportedly targeted by an armed man. 26-year-old Nicholas Roski of Simi Valley was arrested near the Maryland home of Justice Brett Kavanaugh just before 2 a.m. this morning. He was allegedly carrying a gun, a knife, and zip ties and had made threats. The man is being charged with attempted murder of a Supreme Court justice. There has been an uptick of threats via social media targeting members of the court. State lawmakers today announced legislation to protect reproductive rights in California. SCA 10 will preserve the constitutional right to abortion and contraceptives after the leaked Supreme Court draft majority opinion that threatens to overturn Roe v. Wade. The amendment is co-authored by Senate President Pro Tem Tony Atkins as well as Speaker Anthony Rendon. SCA 10 needs a 2/3 majority vote of the Senate and the Assembly by June 30th to be placed on the November ballot for California voters. Protesters blocked the front doors of Sempra Energy, a Fortune 500 energy company headquartered here in San Diego. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says the activists were hoping to send a message.
The front doors of Sempra Energy's downtown headquarters were blocked for about 2 hours by San Diego residents worried about the planet's future.
The climate emergency is really bad. Everyone should be absolutely terrified of it. Terrified and really angry.
San Diego 350's Masada Dizenhouse leaned against a huge sign blocking the entrance, saying she can no longer turn her back on climate change.
Because Sempra's business plan is to increase its profits by destroying our future and our health, and I will not take it anymore.
Sempra is the parent company for San Diego Gas and Electric and Southern California Gas. Those two Sempra-owned utilities provide electricity and natural gas to most of the region. Danielle Wilkerson says Sempra needs to do better.
Methane is not renewable. It is not a clean energy source, and we need to stop lying to the public and saying that it is. We need to make a rapid and just transition to renewable energy sources.
Sempra officials shared an email statement. They said, quote, "We are focusing on delivering a more sustainable future by decarbonizing energy networks and advancing resiliency and affordability." Protesters say they'll continue to pressure Sempra to make climate-friendly changes. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
President Biden arrived in Los Angeles today as the Summit of the Americas formally begins. The President and First Lady Jill Biden were greeted by LA Mayor Eric Garcetti and Governor Newsom at LAX this afternoon. The summit will continue through Friday at the Los Angeles Convention Center, with Biden serving as the host. Leaders from Western Hemisphere nations will address issues ranging from immigration to climate change to COVID. Turning now to the pandemic, COVID-19 cases continue their rise this month. More than 1,000 cases per day have been reported in June, but the spread is likely larger than what's actually being reported. Experts say the growing case numbers are driven by an Omicron subvariant as the virus continues to mutate.
The whole country has to brace for yet another one of these Omicron hyper-transmissible, very worrisome variants, because they keep progressively challenging our immune response, even for people, who've had multiple vaccine shots.
Vaccines for kids 5 and under could be approved within the next couple of weeks. With the increase in cases, health officials are recommending people mask up when in public places. Today, San Diego Repertory Theater announced it would be suspending all productions as of June 19th and laying off all of its staff. The theater has produced more than 300 shows during its 46 years with a mission to offer provocative and inclusive theater. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando speaks with the Rep's co-founder and artistic director.
Sam Woodhouse was planning to retire from the San Diego Rep this September, but the theater he co-founded has been hit by a serious financial crisis that made it impossible for the organization to continue.
We have been challenged to produce and present programming in the basement of an active construction zone for over a year. That's going to continue for some indeterminate amount of time, at least until 2023, likely 2024. We have suffered a significant loss of ticket sales due to the pandemic and perhaps our geographical situation. And we have been operating simply at an expense level above what we have proven we're able to generate in revenue. In some ways, the simplest way to look at it is we have spent more money than we brought in.
But Woodhouse wants to make clear that the rep is not disappearing. It is going on hiatus.
We have already formed a brain trust, if you will, a group to think about how we might be reborn and rise again as a more fiscally stable and stable organization that does the art that we remain committed to.
Moving forward, the rep will depend on volunteers, including a volunteer board of trustees and staff such as Woodhouse who are staying on without a salary. The rep will maintain its lease on the Lyceum Theater, where it might still do some kind of programming, as it contemplates what the next step in its evolution might be. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
San Diego voters are one step closer to deciding the fate of the People's Ordinance, which guarantees free trash pickup for some homeowners. Trash collection costs taxpayers more than $40 million a year, and that cost is expected to go up, costing $500 million over the next 10 years. A grand jury has already called the current system inequitable. Homeowners don't have to pay, but condo and apartment renters and owners do.
Really, this proposal is about the city being the one that we claim to be, one that values equity and sustainability, one that invests in our workforce, and one that is committed to solving problems that affect residents every day. Voters are smart, and should this measure get on the ballot, I trust they will understand the choice before them.
Today, the City Council's Rules Committee approved sending the ballot measure to the full council. It would not allow privatization of trash services, and the city cannot make a profit. The government wants to get rid of single-use plastic containers on 480 million acres of public land, including national parks. The Interior Department says it is taking new steps to phase out the use of plastic packaging, bottles, and straws on all of the lands it manages. The department is looking at replacing plastic with alternatives that are compostable, 100% recyclable, or made with biodegradable materials. It has set a goal to completely phase out single-use plastic by the year 2032. The efforts were announced today as part of World Oceans Day.
Let's take a look at our weather headlines, and it's all about the heat in the interior sections. Excessive heat expected through the end of the week, so that means hydrate, stay in the shade if you can, and stay in the air conditioning. Do not overexert. We'll have a lot of sunshine, even to the coast, as the marine layer will be rather shallow. But if you can get through the weekend, the good news is there'll be a little cooling coming early next week. For now, though, we're dealing with the heat. Over in the eastern part of the county here, we do have the excessive heat warnings, and not only is it hot here, but all throughout the southwest. A couple of hot days ahead, heat advisories, heat warnings, and excessive heat watches. Forecast for tonight, some clouds around. Our temperature drops down to 63. We'll see plenty of clouds right along the coast. Ocean side's down to 62. Interior sections, low 61, El Cajon, Ramona at 58. And mainly clear skies here, Borrego Springs, a mild night, and Campo around 61 degrees. Here's a check of those low clouds. There's that shallow marine layer. Notice there'll be some clearing right to the beaches here, so we'll be enjoying a lot of sunshine during the day, but we won't be enjoying that heat in the interior. Getting kind of hot. Borrego Springs sizzling at 108. Ramona's at 93 and El Cajon is 88. Near the coast, that'll be more comfortable. Temperatures in the low to mid 70s. Here's the outlook for the end of the week. Into the weekend, it's hot with high pressure overhead. And looking at the forecast, we see the temperatures still comfortable near the coast, maybe just a touch warmer. Interior sections really heating up with lots of sunshine. And then as we take out of the mountains, it's warm here too. But notice we'll start to see temperatures backing off a bit early next week. And the same will be true in the deserts. Sizzling over the weekend, then temperatures back down by Monday. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
It's the unofficial sign of summer. Opening day of the San Diego County Fair. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne was there as they opened the gates.
Heroes Unite was going to be the 2020 theme for the San Diego County Fair, but COVID got in the way. So with the return of the fair this year, the theme is Heroes Reunite.
Not only is it about comic books and superheroes, but it's about the people in our community who make San Diego great and who have done heroic things before and even during the pandemic.
And people couldn't wait to get in on the fun on opening day. Kalia Morton and Alisa de los Santos were on a school field trip.
What I mostly want to do is get on the rides. I wanted to ride the horses.
Susan Abend is visiting from New York.
The colors, the people, the interesting things to buy. The food is amazing.
It was her first time at the fair, and her first stop was getting some food.
Curly Q French fries. I've never seen such a big portion in my life. So we're sharing it 3 ways, and they're worth the calories.
Some fair visitors come just for the food, and there's definitely some interesting choices. But this season, everything is back. All of the rides and concerts return. But if you do plan on coming, there are some changes, and you must plan ahead.
To buy your tickets online and in advance, you can buy not only admission tickets, but parking as well.
Ride tickets can also be purchased through a mobile app. But all of the fair fun comes with a team effort. And Mueller says the fair is still looking for workers.
Hiring has been a challenge for us, just like for every business this year. And we've increased our hourly rates to attract more employees. There's great perks to work here. We're still hiring.
Mueller said admission was lowered to $15 for weekdays and $20 for weekends. Albertsons does offer a $3 coupon. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
The Salk Institute in La Jolla is raising money for a new building. It will be the second expansion of its campus since the Institute's founding in the early 1960s. The original Salk Institute is an icon of modern architecture. KPBS science and technology reporter Thomas Fudge shows us how its design has stood up as a place to do research.
In the late 1950s, Jonas Salk, famous for creating a polio vaccine, wanted to create a research institute. A site in San Diego was chosen. An architect named Louis Kahn was chosen. And it was clear that Salk envisioned a building that would be itself a work of art.
One of the mandates that he gave to Kahn was he wanted a place that would be worthy of a visit by Pablo Picasso.
Greg Lemke is a professor of neurobiology at Salk Institute, who's also an avid follower of architecture trends. And what better place for him to work than a building whose lines and geometry and embrace of the Pacific Ocean have made it an architectural icon and a National Historic Landmark. But the things visitors don't see are what make it a great building for science. For instance, the skeleton of trusses that bear the building's weight.
There's a series of trusses that span from these towers here to the exterior stairwells. And what that means as a practical matter is none of the interior walls of these laboratory spaces support any weight.
And that means interior walls can be made out of drywall that can be broken down to reconfigure spaces, or from glass to let in natural light and create an open atmosphere. Salk and his architect wanted to create a collaborative space where scientists would encounter each other and observe each other's work. Lemke shows us a corridor of connected labs.
And so when you walk down this corridor, you're walking from one lab to the next lab to the next lab. There are no walls between them. There are no barriers. This was a unique design feature at the time. It's been emulated and duplicated in science labs all over the world.
The beauty of the building is that it is now about 60 years old, and it has continued to keep pace with our changing science.
Srikant Chalasani is a neurology professor at Salk who has seen the building change to meet his research needs. One time, he needed a new room to accommodate experiments his lab would do with mice. He says he talked to the Institute's facilities guys, and they configured a new room. Getting the new room took about 2 weeks.
All they had to do was stick some metal poles from the ceiling to the floor, and then stick pieces of drywall in. That was it.
Of course, in the early 60s, Salk architects couldn't predict the future, and they couldn't prepare for every technological change. One of them, says Chalasani, is the use of wireless technology. The poured reinforced concrete the Salk buildings are made of is great when it comes to blocking cell and Wi-Fi signals. The Institute has had to install more than 1,000 Wi-Fi access points like this one to address the problem. And then there are the teak shutters and panels that Louis Kahn made a key aspect of the building. The local environment, which includes very acidic eucalyptus trees, caused tremendous degradation.
A lot of the
spores that come off of the sap that gets suspended in the air deposits out on the wood, which then joined with the moisture of the ocean air and what have you creates dry rot and surface degradation.
Tim Ball, the facilities manager at Sauk, said it cost just under $10 million to restore the teak panels. The process was all the more difficult because Sauk had to meet strict historic preservation rules as a National Historic Landmark. The teak panels and shutters frame the personal study of Greg Lemke as he opens a window with a view to the Pacific Ocean. He says building a place like the original Sauk buildings would be prohibitively expensive today, especially the creation of interstitial floors. Those are short floors between each main floor that provide valuable storage space and contain the guts of the building, such as the electricity and the gas lines. There is a new building plan for the Sauk campus. Ball says it will be built in the same style, lined up with the original plaza and its symbolic stream called the Channel of Life.
It'll have an open slot roof that will allow us to take the view from the sky to the sea, being transformed from a channel of life from a light and air standpoint to the water feature in the main courtyard, which is a channel of life that leads to the Sea of Discovery.
The Sauk Institute is fundraising for the new building now. They hope to break ground on it by the end of the year. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.